Hello, fellow creatives. Have you seen something so wild that you weren't sure if it was real? I'm talking about a video, an actual demo, and had me doing a double take. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if mood boards suddenly came alive, not just visually, but with this energy, this intelligence.
I had the same reaction. It felt like the future is NW, especially for us creatives in that phase where we're often the most limited, the very beginning of a project.
Yes. It's messing with my brain because it feels so right.
Yeah.
Like, why haven't we been working this way all along? Adobe's calling it Project Concept, and we're diving deep into it today.
We've got their blog posts, some early previews, and even some thoughts from other designers who've gotten a sneak peek. It's a lot to unpack, but trust me, it's worth it.
Okay, so before we get lost in AI magic, let's ground ourselves in the problem. We all know that initial phase, right? Deadline looming, blank canvas staring back at you, pressure to nail the concept.
And that pressure can be a killer. You're trying to be open to inspiration, but also you have to narrow it down fast, which means some potentially brilliant ideas might get tossed aside before they're even fully formed.
Oof, I've been there. Folders full of abandoned concepts that never saw the light of day. And Adobe seems to get this pain point too. In their blog post, they talk about how this initial concepting and mood boarding is crucial. Yet it's where we often feel the most constrained.
It's almost ironic. The stage where we need the most freedom to explore is often where we have the least time and resources to actually do it.
Exactly. Which brings us back to this project concept thing. It's aiming to solve this with, wait for it, AI. But not just any AI. It's this whole new way of working that feels, well, we'll get into that.
From what we've gathered, Project Concept is designed to be that AI partner in the early stages. It's about rapidly exploring artistic directions, but not just spitting out images based on prompts. It's more about giving you control over how those images mix, transform, evolve.
Okay, hold on, because this is where my brain starts to melt a little. You're saying it's more interactive than just typing in, show me a futuristic cityscape.
Way more. Imagine you have a mood board, right? With Project Concept, it's like those images become malleable. You can grab elements, styles, textures, and blend them in real time, almost like you're painting with inspiration.
So you're not limited by your initial vision or prompt. You can actually discover new possibilities as you're playing with the visual.
Precisely. And it's not just about randomly mashing things together. There are controls for style, composition, structure. You're guiding the AI, not just letting it run wild.
Okay, I need to see this in action. But even conceptually, this feels huge-y.
Yeah.
Especially for someone starting out or feeling stuck. Or maybe just someone who wants to push their creative boundaries further than they ever thought possible.
And that's where the potential impact on designers gets really interesting. Some folks are worried AI will replace them. But tools like this, I think they're more likely to elevate the role of the designer.
Because you're not spending all your time on the tedious tasks. You're freed up to focus on the big picture, the concept, the overall experience.
Exactly. It's like having an incredibly skilled assistant who can translate your half-formed ideas into visuals instantly, allowing you to refine and iterate at lightning speed.
So you're not replacing the designer, you're giving them superpowers. I love that. But before we get too carried away, let's break down how this actually works. Where do you even start with something like Project Concept?
From what we've seen, the starting point can be anything. Your own mood board, a collection of stock assets, even just a random image that sparked an idea. It's about bringing your inspiration into this AI-powered sandbox and seeing what emerges.
And then from there, you can start playing, remixing,
Mm-hmm.
experimenting with different combinations and styles. I'm imagining this as a very fluid, iterative process
Right.
where you can capture those fleeting moments of inspiration that might otherwise be lost.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that it doesn't just stay trapped in this AI world. It integrates seamlessly with creative cloud apps like Photoshop and Illustrator. So you can take those remix visuals and further refine them with the tools you're already familiar with.
So it's not just about replacing your current workflow. It's about enhancing it, giving you this extra layer of creative possibility. This is seriously blowing my mind, but you know me. I always have to ask, what about the practical stuff? Like, how do you actually remix an image? What are the controls like?
That's where we'll dive into some of the more technical details in the next part. We'll try and paint a picture of what it's actually like to use Project Concept based on what we've seen and heard.
Perfect, because I'm already itching to get my hands on this thing and see how it feels in action. But first, a quick recap for our listeners, just so we're all on the same page.
Absolutely. So starting point. We're all familiar with the pain of early-stage concepting, that pressure to come up with brilliant ideas fast. And Adobe's Project Concept aims to address this by bringing AI into the mix, but not in a way we've seen before.
Right. It's not just generating images from prompts. It's about remixing existing visuals,
Hmm.
styles,
Yeah.
textures, everything, in a way that feels more like creative exploration than simply giving the AI orders.
And the potential impact is huge, not just for individual designers, but for the whole creative process. It's about amplifying our abilities, not replacing them.
And this is all happening right now, folks. Project Concept is in early testing, and a private beta is coming soon, so stay tuned, because we'll be diving deeper into the specifics of how this thing works and what it means for the future of creativity in just a moment.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of how Project Concept actually works, because I know you're eager to visualize this whole remixing process.
Absolutely. It sounds amazing in theory, but I'm really curious to understand how those controls translate into a real design workflow.
So imagine this. You've got your mood board laid out in Project Concept. Could be images, colors, textures, whatever inspires you, and you see an element in one image, maybe a specific texture or shape that you want to apply to another image on your board.
Okay, so far so good. I do
Okay.
that manually now.
Mm-hmm.
Copying and pasting between Photoshop files. What's different here?
Well, with Project Concept, you can literally grab that element, drag and drop it onto the other image, and the AI will intelligently blend it in, adapting to the new context.
Whoa. So it's not just a simple copy and paste, it's actually understanding the visual relationships and making creative decisions on the fly.
Exactly. And you can control how it blends, the intensity, the style. Think of it like having a supercharged brush that's powered by AI.
Okay, now we're talking. I'm starting to see how this could be so much more powerful than traditional mood boarding. But what about those controls you mentioned? How much freedom do you have to shape the final output?
From what we've seen in the previews, there are sliders and toggles for things like style intensity, structure preservation, and even mood. So you can dial up or down how much of the original image you want to maintain, or how much you want the AI to interpret your vision.
So you're not just at the mercy of the algorithm. You're actually collaborating with it, steering it in a direction that aligns with your creative goals. Exactly. And remember, all of this is happening in real time, so you can experiment, iterate, and refine your vision as you go. It's like having an instant feedback loop between your ideas and the visual output.
That's incredible. And it sounds like it would be a game changer for brainstorming sessions and collaborative projects.
Absolutely. And speaking of collaboration, Project Concept is built with teamwork in mind. Multiple users can work on the same concept simultaneously, sharing ideas and making changes in real time. It's like having a shared digital canvas where everyone can contribute.
That's such a cool feature, especially for remote teams or clients who might be in different locations. But I'm also curious about the integration with other Creative Cloud apps. How seamless is that transition from Project Concept to, say, Photoshop?
From what we've seen, it's incredibly smooth. You can export your remixed visuals directly to Photoshop, Illustrator, or even Express, with all the layers and edits preserved, so you can take your AI-powered concept and further refine it with the precision tools you're used to.
So it's not just about replacing your existing workflow. It's about enhancing it, giving you this extra layer of creative possibility at the beginning of a project. This is seriously blowing my mind.
And one of the most impressive things about Project Concept is that it doesn't just end with the concept phase. Once you've nailed your vision, you can use it to create presentations, mood boards, and even shareable prototypes directly within the app.
So it's like an all-in-one platform for concepting, collaborating, and showcasing your work. That's incredibly powerful. But I have to ask, with all this talk about AI and automation, are there any concerns about losing the human touch in design? Is there a risk that everything will start to look the same?
That's a valid concern, but I think it's important to remember that AI is just a tool. It's still up to the designer to bring their unique vision, style, and sensibility to the table. Project Concept is simply providing a new set of brushes for them to paint with.
That's a great analogy. It's like giving a painter a new set of pigments or a
Yeah.
sculptor a new type of clay. It doesn't change their artistic intent. It just expands their creative possibilities.
Exactly. And in fact, I think AI tools like Project Concept could actually help to push design in new and unexpected directions. By automating some of the more technical aspects, designers are freed up to experiment, explore, and really push the boundaries of what's possible.
I completely agree. And it's exciting to think about how this could democratize design, making it more accessible to people who might not have the technical skills or resources to create complex visuals on their own.
That's a really important point. By lowering the barrier to entry, AI could empower a whole new generation of creatives to bring their ideas to life. And that's something to be truly excited about.
Absolutely. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's bring it back to Project Concept.
We've talked about the features, the controls, the integration with other apps. But what about the bigger picture? What are the potential implications of this technology for the design industry as a whole?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore in more detail in the next part. We'll discuss the potential impact on design jobs, the ethical considerations of AI-generated content, and the overall future of creativity in a world where machines are becoming increasingly adept at generating visuals.
Ooh, that's going to be a fascinating discussion.
Yeah.
But for now, I think we've covered a lot of ground in terms of understanding what Project Concept is and how it works. Are there any key takeaways you'd like to highlight before we move on?
Absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway is that Project Concept represents a fundamental shift in how we approach the early stages of the design process. It's not just about creating mood boards anymore. It's about creating interactive, intelligent, and constantly evolving visual landscapes that can be shaped and molded by the designer's vision.
And it's all powered by AI, but in a way that feels collaborative and empowering. Not restrictive or intimidating. It's like having a creative partner who can help you explore ideas, test possibilities, and bring your vision to life faster than ever before.
And it's important to remember that this is just the beginning. Project Concept is still in its early stages, and we're only just scratching the surface of what's possible with AI-powered design tools.
So buckle up, folks, because the future of creativity is about to get a whole lot more interesting. But before we dive into those larger implications, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into Project Concept and explore what it means for the future of design. All right, we're back and ready to tackle the big question looming over all of this AI talk. What does Project Concept mean for the future of design? And I don't just mean the tools themselves, but the whole industry, the roles of designers. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is, and I think it's important to acknowledge that there's a spectrum of opinions out there. Some people are understandably worried about AI replacing human jobs, while others see it as a massive opportunity to elevate what designers can achieve.
Okay, so let's dive into that fear first. Is it realistic to think tools like this could make certain design jobs obsolete?
It's definitely a possibility. For tasks that are highly repetitive or rule-based, think about things like creating variations of a logo or laying out basic web pages. Those are things AI can already do quite well.
But that doesn't necessarily mean designers are out of a job, right? It's more like those tasks are shifting to the AI,
Right.
freeing up designers to focus on higher-level creative thinking.
Exactly. Think about it this way. The printing press didn't eliminate the need for writers. It just changed the way they worked and the scale at which they could distribute their ideas. I see AI tools like Project Concept as having a similar impact on design.
So instead of fearing obsolescence, designers might actually find themselves with more time and mental energy to focus on the strategic, conceptual side of their work. That's actually pretty exciting.
It is, and think about the accessibility factor. Not everyone has the time or resources to master complex design software. AI tools could empower more people to bring their visual ideas to life, regardless of their technical skills.
That's a really powerful point. It could democratize design in a way we haven't seen before. But of course, with any new technology, there are ethical considerations to think about.
Absolutely. One of the big ones is bias. AI models are trained on massive data sets. And if those data sets aren't diverse and inclusive, the output can reflect those biases.
That makes sense. So it's crucial for companies like Adobe to be mindful of the data they're using to train these models and to prioritize fairness and representation.
Exactly. And they seem to be taking that seriously with Project Concept. They've talked about using licensed content and focusing on transparency so users can understand where the AI-generated elements are coming from.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because we definitely don't want to end up in a world where all design looks the same.
Yeah.
Because it's all being churned out by the same algorithms.
Right. It's about using AI to augment human creativity, not replace it entirely. And ultimately, I think the most successful designers will be those who embrace these tools as partners in the creative process.
Partners, not replacements.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about the potential impact on jobs, the ethical considerations. What about the overall creative landscape? How do you see AI shaping the future of design in the long run?
It's hard to predict with certainty, but I think we're going to see a blurring of the lines between different creative disciplines. With tools like Project Concept, designers might find themselves working more collaboratively with photographers, illustrators, even musicians,
Yeah.
to create truly immersive and multi-sensory experiences.
Whoa, that's mind-blowing. It's like the boundaries between these fields are dissolving, and everyone's bringing their unique skills to the table to create something totally new.
Exactly. And I think we'll also see a rise in what I call generative storytelling, where AI helps to create dynamic narratives that adapt and evolve based on user interaction.
So imagine a website or an app where the visuals are constantly changing and responding to the user's input, creating a truly personalized and engaging experience. That's incredible. It is, and it's just one example of how AI is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in design. We're really just at the beginning of this journey, and it's exciting to think about where it will lead us.
Okay. I have to admit, I started this deep dive feeling a little overwhelmed by all the AI hype. But now, I'm actually feeling really optimistic. It's like,
Oh,
yeah, there are challenges to navigate, but the potential for creativity and innovation is just massive.
I completely agree. And that's the key takeaway here. Don't fear the future. Embrace it. Learn about these new tools. Experiment with them. And see how they can help you push your own creative boundaries further than you ever thought possible.
Well said. So for all our fellow creatives out there listening, we encourage you to stay curious, stay engaged, and stay open to the possibilities, because the future of design is being shaped right now, and it's going to be an incredible ride.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be featuring your AI-powered creations right here on the Deep Dive. Until then, keep those creative sparks flying.